fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to...
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode 62, and I'm very excited to talk to my guest today. But before we get to that, I want to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube and you would prefer an audio-only version, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many other places like that. If you're listening on one of those, though, and you didn't realize there was a visual side to this thing, then please come check it out on YouTube. While you're there, if you would subscribe, it really does mean a lot to me. We just hit 1,000 subscribers recently, and it's the best feeling ever. So if you supported the show in any way, thank you so much. If you'd like to reach out to me, maybe you've got a cool guest idea or some general feedback about the show, you can hit me up at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. While you're there, let me know if you're interested in one of these stickers, and I'll mail you one. Now, back to the guest. I'm really stoked to talk to you. I was trying to remember how we actually know each other, but Eva B.
Oh, hey. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
I know it's like an alias. I probably should have asked you first if that's how you wanted to be introduced.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's your persona. Yeah.
That's my persona. That's my pen name, as I like to call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are a chef.
I am a chef.
Amongst other things, but
Yes.
you are a local farm to table chef, which I wanted you to break that down a little bit. But
Sure.
Yeah. Do you remember how we met? Was it just mutual Facebook friends or something?
Nope, I have no idea.
Well, regardless.
Because the thing is, when you're creative in Ottawa, I'm just going to speak for you. I'm just going to go ahead. I find that we always just dabble in different circles. It's really hard as you're I don't know. I'm just going to put this out there. You're a comedian. It's not like you just hang out with comedians.
No.
It's just every whoever's creative in Ottawa, we're like, oh my God, a fellow artist or whatever. Things just bleed over. So
well, it's fantastic. We were talking about this in the last episode. We were just talking about how Ottawa's the right size for that too.
Yeah.
Where it's not too big of a city, but
yeah, I'm just curious how you're not gonna pull a Greg Houston, just peace out. What keeps you in Ottawa?
Family really
Yeah.
is the main thing. I mean, my folks are here, but also I share custody with my ex-wife of my two oldest kids. So
Can't just be hey, bye.
I can't abscond with my children.
I just need to be an artist in Iqaluit, okay?
I've thought about it though. I thought about if I wasn't in that situation, would I go to Vancouver or something? Because I'm interested in acting too, and or even Toronto for the comedy stuff. I don't know, but I love Ottawa. Deep down, if I moved away, I think I would still come back here all the time because I do love the city.
Yeah, I think I need to just embrace it, that I've grown up here, I live here. And honestly, listening to your podcast makes me feel like, there is something to, we have never hung out before.
No.
So, but I already know, we have so fucking much in common.
Yeah,
It's
the second you walked
ridiculous.
in, I was like, oh, Bart Simpson shirt. We're gonna have fun.
Shout out to the Glebe Garage Sale. That's where
Nice.
I found this.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, the roster of people you've had on this podcast, I'm just to be a part of this. It's just so
Well,
exciting.
I appreciate that, but I know exactly what you're saying. I try to
It's
highlight
super
that Ottawa's
niche.
cool.
It's super niche.
Yeah,
And
it is.
Yeah, it makes me feel, well, I don't know. Maybe it's broad for you, maybe, but for me, I'm just how did he pick out all of the moments of my childhood to be on?
Well, that's kind of what I did. I
inspiring.
started chasing down people that, were influential on me at different junctures in my life. And then, double that with what you were already talking about, sort of just meeting cool, interesting, creative types in Ottawa, which is really easy to do. And everyone's really supportive and it's just a great community.
Yeah, kudos to you for reaching out, because I think if I started a podcast, I would be really nervous to reach out to Joanne McLeod. You know what I'm saying?
It got easier as I had more prominent guests on. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, there's a bit of cred there or whatever, but I'm just not, I don't embarrass easily. I'm pretty tenacious and I don't give up easily.
Nice.
Well, especially, I just figure if it's someone I don't know, some big name person who probably gets asked all the time, well, the worst thing is what?
They're too busy
They're gonna
or
think I'm
whatever.
annoying or something. It's like, okay, I'm not fracturing some deep-rooted friendship or something,
Well, I was listening to Rick Campanelli's podcast that you did with him, and what struck me was, he was talking about all the interviews that he didn't really. You were asking him about interviews he was most intimidated by.
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys went on this tangent about did some bands come in to Much Music and they were like, oh, what is this? This isn't MTV, and maybe that made them a little bit apprehensive to get into it. And then he said something like, no, when people really realized what Much Music was, then they were like,
special.
oh, okay, you guys have something going on here.
Yeah, and he told a story about eventually he remembered who was the most intimidating, and it was Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh.
And that did not surprise me at all because that dude looks like a curmudgeon. I don't know.
It's really funny.
Try not to judge until I meet someone personally, but on the other side of that, Rick is like the nicest dude ever. So
Oh my God, I couldn't believe how like
if Rick's gonna like throw shade at someone, there's gotta be a good reason.
he just seems like such a gem. Like I had no idea that I mean, you never know. Like it's been so many years since I've seen him on much. I guess I watched him a bit on ET Canada.
Yeah. He was on there for quite some time too.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, he's not like that. He's just playing it up for the camera. And then when you interviewed him, I'm like, oh my God, what a gem.
You know what though? There's plenty of people that you interview and they turn it on for that, and then afterwards they ghost you or whatever. But Rick is not like that at all. Every time. You know, if I comment on something of his that I thought was cool, he always like, hey, how's it going, amigo? Like he is 100% what you see is what you get. So
that's awesome.
Okay, well, let's talk about everything you do. And if you could start off by describing what is farm to table cooking specifically.
Yeah, well, I have an environmental science degree. And before that, you know, I've always been really interested in food as like a mode of creativity. But when I realized how much of an effect we have on the land around us, like every little bit helps when it comes to sustainability. I realized that buying local, seasonal not only tasted better, but you know, you really do have a hand on the soil structure. You know, it goes down to the nitty-gritty. When you choose to buy local organic food, you are really making a huge impact on the food system, and it's better for you. You know, as after you harvest any ingredient, it immediately starts degrading in nutritional value. So, I mean,
the fresher the better.
The fresher the better. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just like feel better eating it. I love the community aspect of connecting with farmers. It's really, you know, some of the best connections, relationships that I've had in my life, or just hanging out with farmers, hearing their gripes about industrial agriculture. And like really people have no idea what it's like. And the more people move away from that kind of like tactile sort of job, I think it's been frowned upon over the years. You know, like, I mean, I had such a great upbringing being an immigrant in Canada, like really, you know, obviously have had many opportunities that maybe I wouldn't have had in Serbia. I don't know. We can.
Oh, were you born in Serbia?
I was born in Serbia.
Cool.
Yeah, and I have some
Serbian
Serbian
she brought some
accoutrement here.
That's actually a nice segue, but
well, I guess I'll wrap up.
No, by all means.
I lost my train of thought.
No, but you had a lot of opportunities since you immigrated here. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I have always had this like creative spark in me, and food for me is a really great way of expressing that. And like if I can tie that towards like my values when it comes to sustainability, like farm to table is a no-brainer. So essentially, I mean, I wouldn't walk around as like I'm the farm to table chef, although I definitely project that.
Well, yeah, but that's cool.
Caught on to that.
That's right.
It's just like, you know, making the most of what's local in Ottawa is actually kind of difficult. But for me, I thrive on that. I thrive on limitations. When I'm most creative, it's when I have these limitations. So
working within a confine.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah, like for a few years, I was in a duo for a while. Like my husband and my now husband, we weren't actually together in an indie band, but it was just two of us. And like that like small band, but we were a small band, but I just used the 90s Yamaha to program synth beats. And,
cool.
And we would use loop pedals to sort of build like a full band
sound.
Yeah. So I've always loved that sort of limitation, just breeding creativity.
It's interesting you bring that up because when I mentioned everything you do to my fiance Kelly, she asked, wouldn't it be hard during the winter to do this, you know, farm to table?
Exactly. So shout out to Plein Lune Farms. I'm not like the best at pronouncing
the word pronouncing.
Pronunciating. I haven't even dipped into the rakia.
No, but French words.
French words.
Yeah. What I've heard is as long as you try, they really respect that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, Plein Lune Farms, Ferme Plein Lune. She, Randy, an old coworker of mine, she started a farm with her husband. And she has a winter share, a CSA share. So CSA stands for Community Shared Agriculture. And basically you buy into the season. It's really helpful for small farmers. You pay upfront for several weeks worth of vegetable deliveries. And she's one of the rare people that offers a winter CSA share. So in getting that, like you get so many different varieties of radishes and squash. And
how are they doing this
potatoes,
in the winter? Greenhouses or something?
Greenhouses, yeah, cold storage. But a surprising amount of stuff can continue to grow in even an unheated greenhouse. So they have these really great setups.
Even
and like you can grow
Wow.
you can grow kale for a really long time. It even gets more tender and a bit more sweet when frost hits. There's bok choy that continues to grow. Like that's the thing about these small farmers is that they're so in tune with the land that they'll be able to figure out what varieties of what will grow. And it's not stuff that you'll find in the grocery store. So there will have to be some kind of like you just have to be brave, I guess, in the kitchen. You can't just be like, where are my peppers? I'd have to make this pepper stir fry that I really love.
You got to be innovative, yeah.
You have to be a little bit, excited
to
try something new.
Well, I mean,
speaking of
I was going to say I didn't know you were from Serbia, so that makes this even cooler. You did bring a special concoction you wanted us to try.
Yeah, so in Serbia, usually when you like come over to somebody's house, you get offered Turkish coffee. I mean, we call it like domaća kafa, which translates to like home coffee. And it was actually one of the first preparations of coffee in the world. So we're not really sure where coffee came from. It's probably from Ethiopia. Goat ate
That's what I had heard,
a bean, and then, but like, where did like a cafe concept come from? So I think from what I've learned is that it went up to Turkey, and that's where like big like open air sort of cafes started up.
Cool.
And then, so this is interesting because the grounds are still in it. It's so finely ground that it can be cooked on in a pot on the stove. I have to make a recipe video of how it's made. But anyway, so I'm going to just pour some. It's had enough time for the grounds to settle on the bottom, but if you see some sludge on the bottom, we call it sots.
Which is like sludge?
I don't know what it means. Sots.
I was wondering, where is Serbia in relation to Turkey?
It's pretty close, yeah. So the Ottoman Empire actually took over Serbia back in the day. So it was all part of like the Ottoman Empire, which was kind of Turk.
And it only ended in like the early 1900s. The Ottoman Empire,
yeah,
right?
Serbia is a little over 100 years old. Or Yugoslavia is rather. So in relation to Turkey, Serbia is like 2-3 countries away.
Okay.
And it's this really cool melting pot of, if I were to describe Serbian food, it's kind of this hodgepodge of German food from like the northwest, Mediterranean, because Serbia borders Montenegro and Croatia, and then there's Croatia, and which borders the Adriatic Sea. Oh my God, geography.
I was gonna say you're like a history and geography buff too.
We need Dad to like make sure that we're
you're getting it accurate.
Yeah, getting it accurate. And then there's so much Turkish influence. So we have like lots of like kebab type grilled meats.
Wow.
We have lots of fresh peppers, and so that's what I brought you to try later with your next barbecue.
I'm so down to try all this.
So roasted red pepper with tomato. It's called pinjur.
All this sounds great.
Yeah, you definitely want to have that with your barbecued meats. It's delicious as a side or on a burger. So yeah, the other thing too, what I love about Serbian drink culture is that, when you go over to somebody's house, you get the Turkish coffee offered to you. Then you also get a little bit of rakia. Shout out to my mom. She brought this back from Serbia for me. This is plum brandy. So it's distilled from plums. Here you go.
Thank you. Oh, I thought you were going to mix them together.
No.
Interesting. I thought this was some alcoholic coffee.
The Serbian trifecta is to have coffee, brandy, and bubbly water. So when you offered me the bubbly...
Oh, I thought you were going to say weed.
Not sponsored. No, not a big weed culture there.
So what's the order to do this?
There's no order, my friend. So like...
I like these people already.
Right? So 3
Fucking
drinks. My husband, whenever I'm like always have 3 drinks with me, he's like, you're doing the Serbian 3-drink thing. So I don't know.
What's your
Preference, get hopped up on coffee, then start sipping the brandy, maybe chase with the bubbly.
All right.
Because it's really strong.
Yeah, I'll follow your lead.
A lot of my friends, when I offer it to them, how are you doing, Dad? What do you think?
You just had some?
It's pretty strong.
So we're going brandy
Cheers.
first? All right, yeah, cheers.
I'm trying to get a little oxygen here.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. It's a sipper.
Yes. That's actually not that bad. I found that kind of smooth.
So there are different varieties. You can actually get it distilled with quince, which is a type of fruit. It kind of looks like an apple, but it's a bit more tart. Apricot is my favorite one.
Okay, so they make multiple kinds. That's oh, right on.
And then there is one actually made of green walnuts.
I didn't even know
So
walnuts
it's like
came green.
Raw, it's like raw in the shell, and then you distill it, but with some sugar, so it ends up being like really dark and murky and like
Cool.
kind of interesting.
I feel like I'm just going to be saying cool to a million things because you're just spouting some really
That's okay.
interesting stuff.
And then shout out to Skella on Maryville Road in Ottawa. They just reopened their new location. So if you're looking for any Balkan foods, it's a really beautiful store. They actually labeled the products with the prices. Like, I can't tell you, like, I am like really all about farm to table cooking, but I will say I'm heavily influenced by my world travels, and even from countries I've never been to, I love to cook food from just to kind of get a feel. Yeah. But I gotta say, the international grocers, come on, guys. Get a marketer, put the labels on the products so we know.
I find you get that even
is.
at Loblaws and shit sometimes.
I know. I'm like, wait, how much is this? Yeah, exactly. So, but Skella did an amazing job with their new location. So if you want to try out some Balkan foods, Balkan meat, like going from like Ukraine, like all of that kind of.
I was gonna say I've heard the term, but I wouldn't have been able to necessarily.
Okay, this is where I was like, okay, I need to like get.
Is that like Scandinavian sort of, or no?
Yeah, it's like a similar term. It kind of groups countries together. So the Balkans are like east of the Adriatic Sea. So okay, Italy's boot.
Yes.
Okay,
East
of Italy's boot, you cross like a little dip of water.
Yeah.
And then you get to former Yugoslavia. You get to Montenegro. You get to Albania.
Okay.
You get to Croatia, and then Serbia's inland of that.
Balkans are a mountain range, are they not?
I don't know.
Oh. Yeah, my dad's usually good for trivia facts like that. So
I mean, maybe there's definitely mountains in Bosnia and in Serbia.
I'm learning a ton.
And then if you go directly south from Serbia, you get to Macedonia and then Greece, the top of Greece. So Greece is like from your direction.
I'm trying to picture it.
It's this way. Yeah.
You've named so many countries that I've heard of, but could not have really told you where they were.
What's really funny, I went to cooking school in Ireland, and
yeah, I was going to bring that up.
We all had little name tags because they're just old school like that. And I guess there are 60 students, and they want to make sure that they call us by name, which is cool. After a while, I just flipped the name tag over, and then I drew like east of Eastern Canada. So just because people in Ireland do not understand where Ottawa is.
Wait, what did you draw for Eastern Canada?
Okay, so I drew...
Not like the map.
I drew a map.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just to troll people.
Okay.
Yeah.
From memory? That's pretty good.
I loved geography as a kid.
Same here, actually. I don't know that I could have drawn...
I mean, I remember like doing like using like pencil crayons and, drawing everything. I love that stuff.
I love geography facts and learning about different parts of the world, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a visual like representation. Like if I were to try to draw all the states in the US, I think it would do very badly.
Well, I mean, I drew Canada. I drew like what I know of Ontario. I kind of drew Quebec and like, the eastern provinces. And then I drew New York because that is how I could show people. Roughly.
Proximity.
Like Toronto is this way from New York City. Ottawa is this way. Here's Montreal. Maybe you don't know about it.
No, but everyone knows New York. That's true.
Right?
That's a smart move, actually.
And like we can drive there,
I was going to ask you about going to school in Ireland because we're like my dad's fully Irish. I got my citizenship, but I've never been there. My grandparents were immigrants. So
top of the morning.
It was a great place. I can't wait to go one day. But
oh my God. Yes, you should totally go. So I was in Cork, Ireland, which is 2 hours south of Dublin on the coast. And what's funny about that is that whenever somebody was like, oh, I have to go to Dublin for something, for work or whatever, and it's like a 2-hour drive, and we're like, we go to Montreal for shows because we're like desperate for culture. So you enjoy your 2-hour drive to Dublin, okay?
Wow.
But yeah, it was awesome. It was like, it's what drew me to go to Ireland in the first place was because it's on its own 100-acre organic farm.
Oh, wow.
So it was all in line with like what I wanted to become as a chef one day.
Ballymaloe?
Yeah, Ballymaloe.
Ballymaloe
You
Cookeries.
pronounced it
I did.
properly. Good,
Must be the
good Irish boy.
Luck of the Irish, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely want to go there one day, but it's, having kids makes things quite difficult. Traveling wise, I think we've been only 2 places in, like, my fiance and I since we've been together. As far as we went to Jamaica and we went to Columbus, Ohio, of all places.
Well, they're starting to make it more accessible to fly to Ireland. It's funny because there's so many Irish Canadians, so many Irish Americans, but it's kind of tough to get there. Like, I think I had to go through Scandinavia. I forget where.
Really?
Like, to get to Ireland.
You mean like do a transfer?
The flight, yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it was like Ottawa, Montreal.
Is that a regular thing? Have you had issues like that going there? You haven't been to Ireland in a long time, eh?
Usually direct flight is how I've always gone. Yeah.
Direct from Ottawa?
Well, no, it would have been from Toronto and the day more.
Oh, nice.
And usually we go to England first
Okay.
because we have relatives there as well. So then you just catch a Ryanair and hop over.
Oh, Ryanair.
Well, there
Be
you go.
still my
I don't
heart.
even know
I'm
this.
so nostalgic now.
I don't know the reference, but yeah. Well, maybe one day I'll get it.
Do you want to try some smoky?
I'm down to try anything you brought
Okay,
for sure.
sweet. Yeah, because you don't eat meat, but Serbs cook with a lot of lard.
Tell me these are organic.
I mean, you know what? The ingredients are like not too horrible in terms of processed food. It's
Yeah, I was definitely surprised to see
corn
packaged stuff.
grits, peanuts, vegetable palm oil. They say vegetable fat, soy flour, salt.
Oh.
They're I feel like they need more peanut butter flavor, smoky.
Oh, it's peanut butter.
Oh, yeah.
Weird.
Oh, yeah. Good thing you don't have a nut
Super salty.
allergy.
No, I definitely not.
But yeah, they're a good snack. But they're available everywhere in Belgrade, which is the capital of Serbia.
Yeah, it's kind of like a peanut butter Cheeto.
Right?
Well, without the cheese, obviously, but as far as texture and, the poofy Cheetos, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my God, Kelly would love these. She's a peanut butter fanatic.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
So I was actually going to ask if you had grown up on a farm just because of all the farm, but that's not the
No,
case.
suburban Nepean.
Well, because in your website pictures, you're also like bonding with a chicken. So I thought maybe you just had that in your roots,
Well, okay. Technically, there is a farm in the family in Serbia.
This is what I was wondering, if you had some exposure.
No.
Oh,
No.
you didn't? Oh,
I
so
mean,
it's
I
just-
only went to that farm in Serbia, I want to say 10 years ago was the first time.
Oh, okay.
That was well into my culinary career. I don't know. People are like, oh, your mom must have cooked so much fun stuff with you. She's like, no, get out of the kitchen, actually.
That's even cooler, though, that you found your own path,
I
and
appreciate that,
because there's a lot of families where, you kind
They
of get your
force
occupation
you.
handed down to you. Yeah, you're going to be a doctor or like whatever. So for you to just find that on your own.
They were very nervous. I would say they're supportive, but they were very nervous about me entering the culinary field.
It's one of those things like being a musician or being like anything that I think involves a lot of creativity is not always the most stable as an occupation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where I was going when I, talked about being an immigrant and having opportunities. They were kind of like, what?
They're like, no, you get a good job.
You have a degree.
I've heard that's like a common thing with immigrant parents, though. That
100%.
The next generation feels that freedom and like, no, I'm going to explore this more than you guys did because I have that ability to, because you guys just, worked the factory job or whatever they had to do to pay the bills, kind of.
I guess so. They were very well educated too. So maybe that actually.
What do your folks do?
Well, my dad is an electrical engineer.
Cool.
He was part of the Nortel debacle.
Oh man, my dad was.
Sorry.
How many years at Nortel?
Maybe you knew him.
I was there 18 and a bit.
He was like
Wow.
a human resources dude, right? At
Yeah,
one point.
Oof, that must have been
in the
tough.
software systems.
Okay.
HR systems, not an HR
Oh yeah,
person.
I know. I did like a over 2-hour interview with my dad, and I already forgot what he does.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that podcast out.
Well, it's mainly the sound was terrible on that one. It was the
Okay.
early days, but
Yeah, so profesh here.
yeah, we upgraded recently. But no, my dad, I think I made a mental block when I was a kid because whenever I would ask you what your job was, I would get so bored that I just I think I just learned to tune it out. My friends would ask me, "What does your dad do?" He works at Nordell, something with computers. That was literally the extent I knew.
Sorry, friends. I'm really bad with remembering what my friends' boring jobs are.
Yeah, get an interesting
really-
job already.
That's what we're saying, okay, friends? Be
What-
cool like us. Be like,
So I want
Anyway.
to talk though about your culinary journey, because one thing that really stuck out was when you described that you had depression and that you were also having a bunch of allergies, and then you went and saw an allergist and they put you on a specific diet, like an elimination diet. So I wanted to know sort of what that diet was. I was very curious when I read that. How barren what were your selections?
Barren.
You know?
again, I thrive on being limited.
True,
with
true.
things.
Yeah,
so
this-
I was like, if this is gonna help, bring it on. Well, the allergist was definitely an alternative one, where now in my more rational minded days, I'm kind of like, I don't know how legitimate it was.
Oh, interesting.
But thank God I found it, because I was definitely suffering from panic attacks. It was really hard to work, but I made it happen, you know. And the elimination diet, if you want to get into the specifics, I'm not diagnosing anybody
I
with
was just
panic
curious,
attacks.
yeah.
Like that this should be the way you should go, but actually a lot of people have benefited from eating like this. So no legumes, so like no lentils, no beans, no soy.
Beans is like one of my main sources of
I know,
protein.
yeah, being a vegetarian on an
I
elimination
eat
diet
fish,
is
but
tough.
yeah.
No gluten, no dairy, no nightshades. The nightshades are peppers, eggplant. Like that's like half of Serbian's
They're
Serbian's diet.
poisonous in large doses, right?
Well, there's a compound in it called a lectin, and those are really, besides the nightshade specific compound, there's also a lot of lectins in the seeds and the skin, and that can really cause gut inflammation. You know,
I don't eat a lot of eggplant, so we're good.
you're like, am I?
Well, I'm
following
trying
this
to.
diet?
I'm listening to what you're saying, and
Yeah.
sort of like I'm thinking of my diet in my
Yeah.
head. How well do I follow this potentially?
No nuts. Wait, did she say no nuts at the time? I don't think so.
That's nuts.
But mostly no grains except for quinoa and rice, because those are kind of like a low gliadin gluten containing grain. Because fun fact, all grains have these compounds like lectins and like a variation on gluten. It's not necessarily the gluten compound. And I followed that very strictly for 6 months.
Well, you just mentioned all the things you
and-
can eat. What were you eating then?
And no
Essentially,
sulfites. So that's like no. So basically nothing like with preservatives, like no wine. You know,
Okay.
I just drank gin. So okay, what did I eat?
because a lot
I
of
ate
meats has
gin.
sulfites, like
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 bacon
lunch
and
meats and
stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, it was a while ago. I think I ate a lot of like rice noodle bowls. I ate I could eat buckwheat, because buckwheat turns out not a wheat.
Really?
It's what's the term?
I hate when things have like lies in their
I
name.
know. The hell, buckwheat? You need like a new rebrand.
Have you tried konjac noodles?
Yeah, I love them.
They're pretty cool.
They're
But I
so
remember reading
good.
something on there saying like only eat one a day because some people have extreme
So much
reactions.
fiber. It's because there's so much fiber.
Yeah,
in them.
indigestion or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Have you heard of konjac noodles, Dad?
Only from you, I think.
Okay, yeah.
When you were trying them.
They're
out.
like
Very
essentially
popular in Japan.
they're popular with like fitness people because they're like so low in calories and
Low glycemic. Yeah, they don't
Everything,
shoot
yeah.
your like blood sugar
they'll
up.
fill you up without puffing you up.
So it's
Yeah.
like konjac instead of Metamucil.
It's not like
I
just a
think so,
laxative.
but yeah.
No,
and
Metamucil's a fiber.
yeah, it's a fiber. It's mainly just psyllium husk,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
which
I always
is
thought Metamucil was to help you shit.
it is.
Okay.
It bulks
Well,
up the
because
stool. Yeah.
exactly.
It's very hydration-y.
You have to drink a lot of water when
have
you
to drink
take it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
depletes you of hydration.
Yeah, because
Like,
actually with keto cooking, I'm like jumping ahead.
That's
I
okay.
think.
No, that's somewhere in my notes here, I'm
With
sure.
keto cooking, baking, you use a lot of psyllium husk because it's so absorptive. That was the word I was
There you
looking
go.
for. It's so absorptive. Like when you're cooking with it, you actually have to let the batter sit for a minute because it like starts absorbing all this liquid. So imagine that in your guts.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, that's why I like to try to eat stuff that I hear is good for your guts, like kombucha and also this raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut. I try to just eat like a big
nice.
forkful,
Yeah.
every couple days.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
I don't know if I haven't done any studies on myself or
Right.
anything, but I feel healthy for the most part. So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting when you were saying, no nuts, no beans, because those are, again, not eating a lot of meat, obviously protein, but nuts, I've read so many things about different types of nuts for like depression and for, just many mental things. So I don't know. I hate when I hear about diets that take away the good benefits of things that, you can't eat this anymore.
But it's like you asked a good question. Like, what did you eat? There's I could eat everything from my CSA box if I wanted to.
So all the fresh produce
and
stuff.
like all of the meat. And I'm sorry, you don't eat meat, but fish, all of the fish, except some shrimp has like sulfites in it.
Really?
Which is annoying. Yeah, it keeps the color. And salmon is dyed a lot of the time.
It's fun. It's funny you're talking about, me not eating meat because I'm in no way like a judgmental. You could eat a T-bone steak in front of me. I'm not going to.
Oh, hell yeah. Bring it on.
And I actually gathered from some of the stuff I read that you were like a very similar mindset of don't judge, just let everyone live and let live kind of thing.
Oh, I'm so glad that comes across. Because, it's really easy. Like, before we start rolling, we're talking about Joe Rogan. Like, it's easy for people to, like, be, like, super judgmental.
Yeah.
Or at least appear so. And, I'm
or
glad
they feel
that
like they have to pick a team. And if you don't fully commit,
although
then you're,
part of me, because we're all, like, as a solo entrepreneur or a creative, we're all mindful of this new age of self-promotion. So sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm not being truthful enough or like blunt enough. Unfortunately, that attitude gets a lot of clicks and views and comments because people are like, oh, what the fuck? What are you saying? That kind of stuff. It
divides people and starts conversation.
Yeah. And then like secretly the person putting out those statements are like,
well, I was going to ask you, you've probably been harassed by vegans at some point or another?
Great.
Like
now you've planted the seed.
Yeah, I'm trying to really alienate you
fortunately
here.
not. Fortunately not. No, I've been doing recipe writing for a farm called Ferme Rêveuse. You like the pause before I say a French word.
I'm like, you trying so hard.
Shout out to Ferme Rêveuse. They deliver fresh pasture raised eggs.
Nice.
And kombucha, the best kombucha you can buy in Ottawa. Period. Best eggs you can buy in Ottawa. Period.
I will say for people who love
and they
kombucha.
Deliver.
Don't go look at a video of what like the blob thing is because
the
it'll
SCOBY?
make
It's so cool. The scientist in me is like, oh, so cool, symbiotic relationship.
It looks like nasty though. I don't know. I buy the kombucha even that doesn't have like the massive chunks. There's Tonica is pretty good for that. You'll see a little bit of debris, but it's not.
Olga from Ferme Rêveuse really filters that shit.
Okay,
it's really good. She uses seasonal flavors too.
I want all the benefits. I just don't want the gnarly mouthfeel.
Why did I bring them up though?
Sorry. I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
No. I went on the tangent.
Yeah, but I may have derailed it. This happened. Do you remember that? No.
Oh my god.
So we
were talking about being okay. They got hit by the vegans hard recently. They were promoting their veal, and then the vegans were like, "What the fuck?" I think they just paid. But like, okay, so let's.
The only argument I've ever heard the other way is, yeah, but it's a tasty baby. Yeah, I get that. You do you, but...
I mean, the veal is, like, incredible. But, like, so for the first time I ordered it from them, it was, like, bright red. I thought that they messed up, and they just gave me beef. And they're like, no, it's actually because they get fresh air, which oxygenates their blood and actually makes the flesh...
That makes a lot of sense.
So they're free babies, and they're not babies anymore. They're, like, much older.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's another reason to connect with local farmers.
Still had dreams and aspirations. No,
you just don't want that milk-fed veal. But what they used to do with veal was they would keep the calf in a small pen, feed it milk, and not let it move around much because they didn't want the muscles to develop. So you'd get this pale cut of meat, and that was supposed to be great veal. But you got to think about the life of the youngster. Like, geez, come on.
Well,
yeah. So this farm is legit, and they're so open. They're like, if you want to visit, come by. They're awesome. But yeah, they got hit hard. They did like a promotional post on Facebook, and then the vegans were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Facebook, you're gonna.
And they're like, you should wish there were more farms like us.
Well, because they're not like Walmart type foods and yeah. Well, what you were saying, it's the same reason I pay like the extra $4 for free range eggs or free run, because when you hear about like the bottom of the line eggs, it's chickens all mashed into one cage. They debeak them so they can't poke each other to get to death, and then you just, even if you don't morally give a shit about that, you're like, fuck it, they're chickens, I don't care. Still, like, dude, bro, like, what do you think's gonna make the healthier egg?
Yeah, exactly.
The hostage chicken or the like?
Chicken,
I'm sure I've said this on the show before, but it seems like a no-brainer to me to eat the eggs from the healthy animal that had a decent life. So.
But that, goes for the vegetables too. I think a lot of people who are plant-based, they forget that the industrial harvested turbines that collect the corn or the lettuce, they're just raking through with these like really fast motorized blades, and those are killing like entire ecosystems of like groundhogs and mice.
Plus, they have probably way more like anti-bug sprays and all the chemically shit on them.
Yeah. I think, it's much more sustainable to be mindful of, the whole cycle of life and death. And, and honor the small local farmers. But it's not in everyone's budget, or people just don't even know.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
and some people are against it, and that's fair. They're allowed to not want to eat,
and
animals.
that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because like, I have said this.
Don't be a fucking hypocrite is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I've said this on the show many times, but it's something I stand by, which is the same reason that I don't eat animals, for me personally, is because I just feel kind of, I eat fish, so I'm not a purist. This is, don't take my advice. But for me, the main reason I don't eat them is because I feel like, I didn't create this animal. I don't have jurisdiction over them. But that's the exact same reason that I'm not going to give you shit if you eat meat, because you're essentially another animal that I don't have jurisdiction over. And,
that's very interesting.
So to me, that's the hypocritical part. So
interesting.
Anyways, to each their own. And I think we'll generally have a happier
Well, you're giving lower people who eat not as much meat a good rep.
I know, I'm in such like a thin sliver
No,
of...
it's called pescatarian.
Yeah.
It's so funny talking
true.
to other chefs that are like, meh, dietary restrictions. I'm like, well, A, kind of saves people's lives.
Yeah, depending on your situation.
Yeah. B, as my doctor friend says, she's like, people can ask for food that isn't spicy if they want. And a lot of chefs will be like, okay, they don't want something that's not spicy. But if...
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. However, I will vouch for chefs. Like if you're coming to a restaurant and you're like, can I have the steak, but can you remove like the butter, the herbs, the no pepper? You know what I'm saying?
It's not the thing anymore. Essentially.
Yeah. Like don't walk into a restaurant, call ahead. If you really have like a lot of dietary restrictions, please call ahead. They are probably going to be more than happy. However, if they're railed busy in the middle of service.
And you spring it on them.
Yeah.
And then you act like all dickish about it, like as if they were supposed to know somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people do that with so many things, though. It's just called being arrogant asshole.
Yeah, like I got like farro, which is a type of, it's an ancient grain.
Okay.
It contains gluten. I got that on my salad, even though the rest of the food I asked for gluten-free, because that's one thing I still stick to that I find that gives me a lot of brain fog. I definitely eliminate gluten. However, I've slowly reintroduced the stuff from that elimination diet. But anyway, I got the salad. I had the ancient grains containing gluten on them, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take it back, but I just let them know. I'm like, in case a celiac comes, you should know that whoever's on the line just threw this on.
Yeah, because they might have a really extreme
Because the person
case.
who might be freshly diagnosed celiac might not know.
Yeah,
They might be like, oh, farro, that's not wheat. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's so true. I wanted to ask you, since you mentioned you did travel and you're into meats and stuff, I'm curious if, like, what's the most exotic meat you ever tried?
I ate snake in China.
Okay, what kind of snake?
I don't know.
It was sliced
big.
up?
It was like about yay thick,
Oh
like
my
maybe
God.
5 inches
Chinese are pretty out there with
what they eat for sure. And I was
like stuff that's still moving.
Yeah, I did not eat any of that.
I've seen some weird videos online.
Yeah, same. No, it was actually surprisingly hollow. So you basically eat between the ribs of the it's like, yeah, you get like the round of it and then you eat the
Again,
flesh
not
between
judging,
the
but
ribs.
still a little bit.
It was delicious. I ate a lot of random shit in China and it was all delicious.
Like what else? What other
It
weird...
like changed my, it actually, I like to say that it kind of sparked my desire to become a chef. Because
it made
I was
you
just
realize
like,
how much more was out there.
yeah, and like the eating culture, I was graciously taken around with like my best friend from high school and her mom all throughout China. And so being a guest, like they really, they go all out and like lazy Susan, everything. And it's always just this grand affair. And it was really, really awesome to see like, oh, this is how people eat. They gather and they
Isn't that
take their
so
time.
cool? Not just like how different cultures have different like, cuisines, but the way they eat can be so different and the ritual behind that.
The ritual is awesome. Yeah, I love it so much.
Well, my dad, I remember telling me when I was a kid, he used to travel for Nortel and he went down to Texas one time. And I think you told me you had like rattlesnake, like a sausage style on a pizza or something.
Whoa.
Well, it was an exotic pizza place really. And they had alligator, they had rattlesnake.
But you tried any of the weird shit?
No, I really didn't. But there were others in our party who did. I don't recall the comments, but it was probably tastes like chicken.
Yeah, probably. That's what I know.
It's a classic.
You had chocolate covered ants. You told me back in the day.
Yeah, that's back in university. I did some things and chocolate covered ants and octopus, which was kind of a rare thing at the time.
So that's one thing, Oliver, I will say. Octopus is one of those things that I'm having a hard time eating because they're so
cool.
fucking smart. They're so smart, but they're so delicious.
So it's kind of cool how everyone has their own personal limit.
Fine.
Because the way I stopped eating meat was when I started learning that pigs were smarter than dogs. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to eat my dog. And I ate poultry for a while still after that, like years.
Yeah.
And then eventually I don't know why I stopped eating chicken really, because I still don't have a lot of respect for them.
What about whales? And what about porpoises? And,
do people eat like dolphins and shit?
Yep.
Whale is still on the menu in Japan.
And their shark fin soup is a big thing too, right?
I guess so.
That was, I remember they were worried.
That's really what's tough about, banning whaling and the shark stuff. It's like it's so entrenched in their culture.
But it seems like I could be wrong here, but when it's anything I've seen with like Inuits, they seem to be very respectful, and it seems like you said to be a part of the culture, but they don't overuse. It's not for the wrong reasons. It's just to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
And but when you hear about a lot of Asian cultures, it's like, oh, we need this tiger's penis because it will make my courage strong or something. I'm like,
no, it's such a fine
on.
line. Like we're definitely not the people to tell them that it's wrong. They have to figure that out themselves. But like it's TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. Like they think of, I think some stuff can be helpful. Like I studied herbalism for a while, but then I think sometimes it's like a little bit more metaphysical. And like to them, like that's really important because you get the vibes.
But you would think if they respect these animals so much that they would also then be like, oh shit, they're almost extinct. Yeah, like we should slow down, guys. I don't know.
That's the thing though. Like all this stuff happened when it was like fucking really hard to capture a tiger. But now like now we got machine guns.
Now it's like send the drone out or something.
Send the drone, send the huge nets and like the mechanical cranks to just pick up everything in the ocean. Now it's just really hard. Like in Mexico, I met this guy who like would literally free dive with we're repping Bart Simpson today with a slingshot.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Would hit the octopus in the head and knock it out and fucking fish it and like cook it up there. And I'm like, okay, I respect that.
It's
but
cool,
if the guy is like,
it's badass.
But if we have like these huge ships that are just taking up everything, I mean, that's where the issue is. I think like the issue with the issue is that I think it's so easy to be like, let's just eliminate all fisheries. It's like, well, no, like there are so many communities that literally their lives depend on it. It's been in their blood for generations, and they still fish, the old school way,
responsible-ish way.
They take what they need, much like you were saying with the Inuit. It's like salmon fishing is huge in the West Coast, in Quebec, with like indigenous cultures. Why don't like
there's a right way to do it.
They knew what seasons to fish the salmon and when to just let them be.
Because they're in tune with it and they respect it, and that's the difference. Like,
and all that stuff is being lost.
Yeah, it's instead huge monopolies and corporations that don't give a flying fuck about the fish or the balance of the nature and the ecosystem and all that, and it's all about just money. And that's where I'd say the world is going wrong in a lot of ways.
True,
but certainly in the food industry,
like we can use money to motivate us and buy like cool shit for the walls and stuff, but
Yeah, I'm not looking to move to communist Russia or anything, but there's right ways and wrong ways to do things, and a lot can get lost.
I know, which is again like why I thrive on like putting this farm to table message out. We like, let's vote with our dollar. There's a lot that's out of our control. We are on the first day of, I guess, new government or the old government part 2.
They're back again.
They're back.
Nothing really changed, but
yeah, exactly. But yeah, vote where you can with your dollar. There's a lot we have out of our control. Like for instance, so I studied environmental science at Carleton University, and I remember one of my last geology classes, like a 4th year class. We were talking about like I was getting like really into sustainability. I was vegetarian. I was like really like, we gotta like do what we can. I was like biking everywhere. I thought I would never go on an airplane again. Like I was really hardcore.
Wow.
yeah. I was really hardcore.
Greta Thunberg.
And the guy was like, oh, did she say that? She's like,
She
never
would
gonna
only
go
take
on
a boat
plane.
or something, right? When she came to go on Ellen, I think she refused to take a plane.
Yeah, like I was fantasizing about how I'd get to Serbia again and visit my family. Like I was like looking up online like what boats I could take. Like maybe I could work on a boat to get across. Anyway, that's how hardcore I was. And then the guy was like, "Did you know that your tuition is being invested into refineries and like mineral extraction around the world?" It's like we have a very like if you really think on this like macro level, we have a very small way of controlling, you know, where our influence goes. Like it's unfortunate. It's like the world we live in. So, you know, support your local farmer. This is how it all comes down.
But it partially comes down to convenience is the problem, is lazy people and the people who are like, oh, well, why would I go get the healthier food from way down there where I got to drive maybe a little further when the store has some prepackaged
But now
bullshit.
they all they deliver everything, especially like once the pandemic hit, they were like, how do we get this amazing food to our people? Like,
okay, speaking of deliveries to the door, sorry to cut you off, but
no
I did
worries.
want to ask you
Yeah.
what your thoughts were on something that we've been doing lately, which is like the good food boxes and the HelloFresh. Do you think that's awesome because it's getting people to cook or?
Well, I've never used the service.
Okay.
But you tell me, do you feel like you've learned anything from cooking? Like maybe learn new spice of a new spice or of a new...
little things definitely.
little things.
If anything, I would say it's a confidence builder because every single one, and I have anxiety, so this is part of it. It might not be the case for everyone, but every single one, I've been very stressed out the entire time, but I'm very happy and proud at the end. And they've always turned out like amazing. And I'm like, oh, look at me. You know?
Do you think, do you ever look online for a recipe? If you're like, oh, I want to make pho for the first time.
Not really.
No.
I don't even watch a lot of TV anymore. I feel like maybe it's bad time management partially, but I'm just always doing some shit. And I do try, I guess I do like these because they have forced me to try new recipes that I never would have. One criticism though, is their time allocations that they tell you not accurate at all. They don't take into account chopping all the shit up.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course, if you've got something. Yeah.
Yes, I do. So Jamie Oliver has like a 15-minute or less franchise pretty much. And I've worked on several cooking shows myself.
Yes.
One of which was like another sort of 30 minutes or less to make 3 dishes. All of those are like they do time it, but everything is prepped in little bowls. All of your equipment is on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not real world at all.
It's not necessarily not real world. It's just like that's how long it takes to cook after you've prepped everything.
Yeah.
But how am I? Okay, so this is interesting because I've pivoted my business a little bit. I've been getting more into recipe writing.
Oh, nice.
And I need to understand the difference it takes for me to chop something up for me to write down prep time. How long?
Because you're very efficient and you know your way around the kitchen.
Yeah,
and,
I have a well-organized kitchen because it's essentially my studio now.
Yeah.
So, but like versus you, like if you don't cook that often, if you don't know how to cut a pepper and like get the seeds out.
I'm not that bad.
If you think you need to take every single seed out and you're very meticulous, that will take you longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it's super interesting. So I don't know what we could offer as a solution to HelloFresh or whatever company. But
well, let's talk about.
What do I think about those companies?
Well,
I think it's unfortunate because I did work for a company. This lady hired me to do recipe development for like a local version of that kind of thing, but
Okay.
she just decided to stop after a year. I wasn't really involved in the packaging of it, but she said that more and more people were like, "Can you stop giving us like the full vegetables? Can you just start prepping everything so I can dump and mix?" And it's just like, well, that kind of like it loses the whole vibe of her being like, "No, we want you to learn how to cook." So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always known that entering this field professionally, I wanted to teach people how to cook. But yeah, thank you for sharing that with me because now I realize that, yeah, like I also have crazy anxiety and I'm not saying you have crazy anxiety.
Oh, it is sometimes for sure. And I'm OCD too, so I
Yeah,
don't count the
same.
seeds, but I'm sure I have my own something like that that I'm doing
so
in the
it's
kitchen.
good. It's good to know that yeah, people still have that barrier to cross over too, because with the pandemic, I think a lot of people realize how much their health really matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like cooking from scratch is one way of helping your immune system. And, it's not the only thing, obviously.
And it also, I think one of the reasons they started those companies, or the incentive, is supposed to be that you won't end up buying stuff at the grocery store that like 2 weeks later you're like, oh shit, we forgot to use that, and now
yeah,
it's
but
gone
some
bad.
people are like, oh, they gave me too much food. Do you find, well, you have kids, so they probably
Yeah, it goes
eat-
pretty quickly
Yeah.
when the kids are all here. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I know couples that are like, it's too much food, and then I don't know what to do with the leftovers. So that's like a whole other aspect of
'Cause
food
you're wasting
education.
potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I know my brother, he's always like, okay, what's with these recipes? Like, what do I do with the leftovers? And like I love, as I said, I love to I thrive on limitations. So
Yeah.
I create like new full meals out of leftovers.
What's that called? Ad hoc? Is that the term? When you throw something together with what you got? That's not incorrect, right?
Yep. No, that's correct.
Okay. Or makeshift would be another one.
I
was
guess I
thinking.
didn't really realize what that term was. Do you want more rakia?
Yeah, it's actually really good. I'm finding tiny sips are super smooth, and there's a nice taste at the beginning. I don't know if it's the plum, I guess,
I think
but
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you for bringing that.
Oh my God, my
I was actually
pleasure.
going to throw to my dad because sometimes he has a question for the guest. And
Okay.
did you prep one this week or no? Or this week? We did a podcast like 2 days ago, but
I
this
will
episode.
say thank you for the honey. I feel like, I don't know if you guys give this to all of your guests, but
I don't think my dad's ever given anyone a gift.
is this your honey?
No, it's not ours. But it's locally made. We
This
bought.
is the sweetest gift, honestly. Not just because I'm Eva B, but
We contributed to a local hive, right, to promote the bees,
I haven't
and
heard about this.
yeah, and then as part of that, you get a share of the honey that's produced, and we've done that a couple of different
CSAs,
times.
yo, CSAs.
Yeah, that's
This
really
is
cool.
amazing. I've never even heard of this company. I feel like I really pride myself in learning about like every single food
Having
business
your
in
ear to the
Ottawa.
ground, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
People are like, "How did you find this restaurant?" Like I take them to a new place. I'm like, I feel it's like literally my job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
So that's
Thank you.
I think it's G's Bees, and they've got a local. They've got a local farm, and they have a really nice way of running their business. You get to go out there. You can take your kids, and they'll show them the hives, and it's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check them out.
Now, as far as questions, I have a couple of different questions actually.
Bring it
Oh,
on.
bring it on.
So
I
the
can
f-
load my vape.
Yeah, the first one is around organic versus non-organic. So organic ostensibly seems like the right way to go, right? But I have heard things that organic farmers, I mean, they've still got to deal with the same pests and things like that, and they have organic solutions to that. So we won't call them. I guess there's still a pesticide in
Yeah.
that is to get rid of the pests, but and that they're not as effective as like chemical pesticides that others use. But so they have to use a lot more. They got to treat a lot more. And I'm just wondering, any concerns about that? Or I mean, is organic? I guess it comes down to, is organic food really that much better for us? I mean, they're just using alternative pesticides, but
Yeah, it's a tough question because, again, if I were to choose between organic baby gem lettuce from California or my friend's non-certified organic farm, I would choose my friend's farm. Do you know what I mean? So another example I can give you is a friend of mine. He's a PhD in like land use for agriculture, and he gave me this anecdote on organic bananas. And there are some plantations that will cover the bananas, but spray the trees and the soil and everything for the pesticides. But the bananas can still be certified organic.
Oh, they're just loopholing it.
It's a loophole.
Brutal.
So again, this is why it's so important to get to know your farmer or
Yeah.
the farm that the food comes from, because
Well,
yeah,
because
like
big-
organic is not this like fantasy birds flying around everything, you know. There can still be monocultures of organic crops.
I was just going to say, obviously, big business has gotten wise to the fact that organic's in, so
Well,
they're going
and
to do the sinister version of that.
unfortunately, organic is in itself a big business. So my friend's farm might not be certified organic because it's crazy. You have to have like organic hand wash. You have to have organic, like a bunch of organic certified products. on top of that, you have to be like logging a bunch of stuff for bureaucracy purposes so they
Yeah.
can make sure that it's organic and everything.
Certification and all that, yeah.
And it's really out of their price point. So a farm can totally be organic, but not actually be able, have the means, have the financial means, have the time to become certified organic.
So here's another question. So that was a good answer. I mean, I think the focus there is really go local, because you can
Yeah.
become educated about what's local, and you can never become educated about the bananas from Ecuador or wherever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you could, but it's like a full-time job.
A lot more work, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's no easy answer to is organic better for you or not.
Okay.
I think some people say, like, if you can't afford organic, don't buy organic. You don't have to buy organic avocados because, like, the peel will prevent you from actually ingesting the pesticides. But I mean, I'm not 100% sure on all that stuff.
It's got a hard enough shell type vibe to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the other thing, and you've said it a couple times, get to know local, get to know your local farmer. How does the average person get to know their local farmer?
Definitely just search online for a farmer's market near you. One of my first chef jobs was in Algonquin Park at an eco lodge. So I literally had to drive 10 kilometers to get to my nearest neighbor.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how in the middle of the woods I was. And the owner of this lodge was like, "No, just go to the No Frills and like buy whatever taco shells and ground beef or whatever." I'm like, "Well, Thanksgiving's coming up. I would really love to get a local turkey and vegetables." He's like, "We're in Algonquin Park. It's all like, I forget like what, like granite or limestone. It's like, you can't farm here." And I literally just, there was a weekly farmer's market in the town that was close by. I'm like, did you always
Yeah,
just
he didn't
ignore
look
this?
very hard, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to connect with local farmers. So that's just an example of how
There's one in Stittsville, I think, too, right? Or Carp or something like
an
that.
organic one.
Oh, maybe
Or,
not
like,
organic. Oh, just a farmer's market.
There's so many farmers markets in Ottawa.
There's one in Parkdale
Lansdowne every
area.
Saturday. Parkdale is literally every day. They don't necessarily. They're not necessarily the farm where the produce is grown. Sometimes they're just selling what Loblaws is selling.
Oh, really?
Well, Loblaws, they have Ontario grown stuff and they promote that
So
when
that's
it's
still
in
good.
season. It's definitely still
better.
good. Yeah, for sure.
And you're still
Sometimes-
meeting people. It's still community,
Yeah, I mean, well,
Pandemic, maybe not so
not
much.
really, but okay. So that's all to say is like the farmers market is your best bet, and then a lot of them will promote a CSA share, so CSA Community Shared Agriculture, and then you can maybe try your hand at getting a biweekly delivery of a half share, and then you're like not thrown like a bunch of vegetables you've never seen before. It's like a good way to like tiptoe your way
Ease
into
you
buying
into it, yeah.
organic, and it's cheaper in the long run. At first, you have to invest a few $100s. Well, it depends on the size of share, and then you get whatever they have growing.
I know a couple of families that do that with meat, where they have like farmers come and drop off.
Yes, it's the best.
And someone told me something along the lines of that the meat they got was like they were weirded out at first because they thought it was supposed to be more like red, like they would get at Walmart, but the meat was more like a gray color.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so
But that was good. They were
blood
saying.
blood has oxygen in it,
Okay.
and when you don't put any like additional preservatives on top, or if you don't have a great vacuum sealer, the outside will oxidize and become brown. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's off. It just means that it's just been hit with like a little bit of oxygen, but it's still
No, they were. I believe maybe I'm messing this up, but I believe the person that was saying this as like a good thing, and they were saying that Walmart was like putting fake shit to make theirs look like it was fully oxidized or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, they can like coat it with
Some
stuff
sort
to
of
keep it
sketchy nonsense. Oh man, that's bananas. Do you have more questions or no? That's pretty much it.
I have others. Do you want me to keep going?
It's up to you, Dad. I mean, hey, all conversation is interesting conversation, so I don't care if it's for
I
me
love
or
the
you.
sidekick vibe.
Yeah,
here.
well, my dad knows a lot of shit too.
I have a question for Dad.
Sure.
How do you feel about your son vaping publicly?
Oh God,
Um,
can't imagine you give a fuck, but maybe I'll.
no, it
I know
doesn't.
my immigrant parents would be like, "Fuck, what the fuck?"
It's something we've as parents, you have to evolve. When Oliver first started down that path, we were like most parents. I think we'd say, we were concerned, right?
I was like
We're
14 for the record.
Yeah,
Smoking
like where's this
cigarettes
going to
and
go?
drinking.
You know, how far is he going to go down this well? Is it going to lead to other things and all that?
Yeah.
So part of it is fretting and trying to give guidance and just watching and helping out if things got off rail, right?
Aw.
But
Oh, yeah, my parents are the shit for sure.
but as he got older and matured, and as we started to understand more, as he communicated with us more about coping with OCD and things like that, I recognized, okay, this or antidepressants or something that the medical community was
Which
trying
I
to
had
shove
tried. I
down.
was on Prozac for several years, put on a bunch of weight. I felt really shitty. It wasn't for me. And I haven't had a medical cannabis card since before legalization. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've seen that even when he's on it and he's doing it, he's conducting a good life and he's turning out
even
great
better
kids
interviews,
and-
though.
Yeah, better interviews. So, but yeah, it's works for him, and we see that it's not the thing I would do all the time, but I'm a different person, right?
The other thing I should point out is generally, if I'm vaping during a podcast, it's low THC. It's maybe like 7% THC, mainly CBD. Like I'm not coming into a podcast with like
Getting
fuck you
blazed.
up Kush, like 25%. Like yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I rarely like getting that high because
Yeah.
it can go the other way, and I can get anxiety from
Yeah.
it if you're just like you can't get your bearings or whatever. But CBD for sure, and a little bit of THC. It's you gotta find the right balance, and
For sure.
it's constantly
It's
changing.
not for everyone, and there are ways to find the right one for you. Like you can talk to a professional.
Yeah.
Well,
It's funny too because when I tried to get my medical cannabis card, my own doctor was not a fan of the plan, and she was not really well versed in medicinal cannabis. So she sent me to like a psychologist to evaluate me basically, and then she had to kind of suck it up when he came back with a form saying like, no, he's totally doing fine. This works for him basically. And then she still wouldn't prescribe it, but she finally connected me with a party that would. So
okay.
yeah, and I think since then she's done a bunch of research. So kudos to her.
Yeah.
Can I get back to my question?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Dad.
No, that's okay. No, I'm not used to taking a question, so.
I've co-opted this interview.
So when you're talking about the elimination diet, my wife has done elimination diets. I think she's had a lot of challenges with her guts over the years. And we've tried different diets for different reasons and things like that. So I want to ask you about one in particular, just to see if you're familiar with it. It's called, the book is called Undoctored, but it's by the guy who did Wheat Belly.
Oh yeah.
And it's the no grains
Yeah.
diet. And so we did that for quite a while, pretty hardcore. And
Nice.
I think it made both of us feel better. We both kind of, were eating the odd pizza and things like that. But it has changed us fundamentally in that we do eat a lot more non-grain. We use tons of almond flour and, whatever else, right? But I was just curious about your thoughts about all the diets in the world. They come, they go. Are there any that you feel like this is a really good sustainable diet that is rooted in basically good health? Or is it, just eat vegetables, eat organic, things like that? I'm just general kind of toss it out there question.
Just to add to that, I was going to ask something similar because I know that you're well versed in keto and paleo and lectin free. So I was definitely wondering the same thing. Like, what is your is there a perfect diet?
Oh my God, do we have an hour? Another
Hey,
hour?
man, we got as long as we need.
So that's awesome that you found a benefit from that. Because I think, it's hard when diets come and go for people to stick to something that works for them. Like, unfortunately, maybe this is like from the 90s, like leftover from the 90s of like a yo-yo dieting. And I think, the low fat,
Atkins.
low fat.
Well, and it's the whole diets are an industry. We're being
Exactly.
manipulated by this industry
Yeah.
who says like every so often we got to flip the channel and come up with something new because it sells books, it sells whatever.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. So, shout out to Rob Wolf. He has been promoting a paleo diet / ancestral diet, if you will, for many years. And he often says, if I were to package this and like tell you like you'll get abs in 30 days or less, like I would be a multimillionaire. But what he's promoting is basically eating how our ancestors did. So there's a theory that when grains kind of came into our diet, it was about 10,000 years ago. Now, if we think about human evolution, like as hominids. I forget which one we are now. Homo sapiens.
Homo
yes.
sapiens, yeah.
Yes, educational
Everyone always
system.
remembers Homo erectus because it's like
'Cause they're
grade
all-
9.
That's what you remember.
And I'm a nerd, so I always think Homo superior. That's like the X-Men and the mutants.
Oh, nice. Oh my God, X-Men. That 90s cartoon was the best. Okay.
Back on track.
Back on track. So
I need more of these.
our I wish we talked about this before the second rakia came in, but let's get this together. So 100,000 years ago is when maybe like Homo erectus, I don't know, I don't remember dates, but like we are still
long ass time
we
ago.
are still evolved to only be like hunter gatherers and only eat, you know, the odd berry and a lot of meat basically, or whatever we could find. So because grains have entered like so recent in our human evolution, a lot of people have digestive issues around that. Now, could that be because Wonder Bread, as an example, no shade to Wonder Bread, but it's like a industrial processed wheat bread.
Yeah.
Whereas these ancient grains I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, they were slow fermented for days and days and days and made into like a porridge and then sourdough leavened, which is leavened naturally by the wild yeasts in the air. So that was easier for our guts to digest.
Yeah.
If we go all the way back there to eating grains that way, maybe that would do for some people. Maybe it wouldn't. But who has the time to sit there and pound grains to like naturally release whatever enzymes are required to promote digestion of them?
Yeah. Again,
So-
convenience. Right?
So I don't think there is a diet that's necessarily a labeled diet that is here to stay, because as your dad rightly mentioned, it's an industry and will continue.
Fluctuation is
Yeah, but like if I think many people would really benefit from eating less processed food. So, I mean, you know, that goes for not only processed grains, so like industrially like puffed grains like this could be like one of the worst things
so
that you
good,
could
though.
eat,
Yeah.
because it's this extrusion process that is just like they take the grain, they grind it, and then they puff it up. So there's no fermentation. And a lot of fermentation, as you know, with kombucha, sauerkraut, helps the
time.
gut. It takes time to make, but it helps the gut. Like
Yes,
it's like a health food.
healthy
It
gut
truly is a-
flora, I think they say, right?
That's what they say. But you actually need a combination of that and what's known as a prebiotic. So those are probiotics.
Okay.
So those are the gut bugs that exist in your
yogurts and-
intestines.
Yeah.
But they need to eat something. So that's where the prebiotics come from. So those are non-fermentable fibers.
Interesting. So what would be an example of that?
Like the psyllium husk, like cold potatoes. So when
sauerkraut? Or no?
No, sauerkraut has the probiotics and
again,
it has
yeah,
the,
okay.
the gutty bugs, but it
So I'm
doesn't
eating
have,
way too much pro and maybe not enough pre.
maybe.
I gotta get some more
Well,
pre.
I don't know. How are your guts?
I don't know how much
get
husk I
deep.
eat.
So
I
yeah,
have a husk heavy diet.
I think like the other part to that, the ancestral diet piece, is to look at our genetics. So wherever our ancestors have come from, we may or may not be more prone to being able to digest those foods. So I think like for my part of the world, we do better with dairy than somebody from Asia, for example, because it's been part of our,
It's evolutionary, yeah.
it's evolutionary. So I think that's one great framework to start with. It's like, what did our ancestors eat? Let me try that out and go from there.
It's cool that you say that because I've heard the similar argument, like, you know, paleo or the ancestral, it's like the caveman diet. And the other part I've heard argued for the same reasons, essentially, is fasting, because that's how our bodies would have functioned. You would have gotten these massive amounts of protein after a large exertion of exercise or energy. And that would, you know, then be followed by a long period of just wandering around looking for the next thing you're going to kill.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because unfortunately, there's no diet that's a cure-all. Whatever you do, you need to also look at your lifestyle. How's your stress level? How's your sleep? How's your community? Because apparently, lack of community is just as bad as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Like
I
that's
can believe that.
that's a
Yeah.
study that
There's a lot
gets
of
thrown
factors.
around.
I've heard sleep is like paramount.
so important.
It tops exercise and diet.
Yeah.
All those will be somewhat irrelevant if you're not getting good
Yeah,
sleep.
if there's one benefit to the pandy, I mean, it's really helped us sleep
If
more.
you can sleep because you're not stressed out about the pandy.
Oh my God, that's true. I've had so many nightmares where I've like, Oh my God.
Where you get coronavirus or something?
Yeah.
Well, you were an interesting guest in that regard because obviously after when things had started opening up again, I guess it was last summer or a little earlier, we started saying, all right, well, we're only going to really do in person with people who have vaccinations.
Yeah.
Not to be elitist or whatever, but that's
Yeah.
where we're at. You know, my dad's 65. I got kids. And
Yeah.
you,
I had no idea you had kids.
yeah, I have 3 kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I
You only saw the
I
little
learned
guy.
to no,
Yeah.
I listened to your podcasts and I've learned.
My
since.
oldest is going to be 13 at the end of the year.
Well,
Can't even believe it, man.
That's so cool.
Shit, what was I talking about now? I lost
We're talking
myself.
about vaccines.
Oh yeah, so
and
you were
candy.
interesting in that
Yeah.
you were like, you basically had some apprehensions about disclosing
Yeah.
medical information, but you also said you could bring a negative COVID
Yeah,
test,
which I did.
yeah, I was gonna say we haven't
I brought
seen,
it with
but
me in
we're
my
not-
in a little
we're pretty
Ziploc
chill.
bag.
We're pretty chill. Yeah, we wait to check if the documents are.
I think it's I mean, now cat's out of the bag because like we're gonna be expected to show proof of vaccination. But like when we were deciding on a date and when you disclosed that to me, I was still in this mind frame of like, is this like I would love to hear your opinions on this because
Well, you made me feel comforted instantly too when I mentioned my dad and that he follows the reports and that he's a master's in biology, so
Yeah.
he's just that mind. And then you brought up that you have a scientific background as well because
Yeah.
you majored in chemistry too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go.
It was a minor in chemistry,
minor,
technically,
sorry,
but
but
environmental science.
Still
a
cool.
fish.
Yeah.
Thank you. With honors. No big deal.
So that was comforting, and you said you as well follow. Like you didn't come off as a careless person who was like, "Yeah, fuck, it's all a fucking sham. It's not real or whatever."
There's a gray zone. No, but what I was gonna mention was like before it was made official that we were gonna expect proof of vaccination for
vaccination passports. and all that.
I'm just wondering, like even I think a lot of my friends actually believe this, that it's kind of like, okay, well, where's the line
Yeah.
cross with the disclosing medical information like that? But like we're in such a particular time.
And you made a joke too. You
And
were
it's-
like, "I'll tell you my last pap smear
Yeah.
that was."
I knew because you were a comedian that I could say that.
Oh, of course, yeah, it was hilarious.
I was like, he won't take this the wrong
Where
way.
is the line? I agree. Like we were talking before the podcast about how we like people who try to remain in the center
Yeah.
as far as not being just like sucked into the
Yeah.
vortex of
Yeah.
some, hysteria or whatever. And I like
I
to try to
also-
think that I am that person still. But
And I also find that like I think from the beginning, like where was the testing? Like I really wish that tests were more of like a popular thing.
Yeah.
So that we could be
well, you
really
said
sure.
you had access to them because your husband's Canada
he works
Post
at Canada
worker.
Post. Yeah.
So I thought
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
really interesting and cool too.
Yeah, he just got them in. So
It's like a
good
rapid
timing.
readout kind of thing.
Rapid readout, yeah.
Cool.
Antigen testing.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. Like I do have my own apprehensions about, of course, no one wants to live in some like authoritarian police state. And
Yeah.
like I get why people are anxious about it. But I also know there's a lot of crazy ass conspiracy people that thrive on that. It's like a drug to them. And a lot of the
know.
time shit is just what it is.
Yeah.
And I've also I brought him up before, but I spoke to a psychotherapist who told me that a lot of conspiracy people have a lot of trauma and that's their way of processing it because then they don't have to deal with the real issues. It's the world that's,
Yeah.
I'm sort of throwing my own part into that too.
Yeah.
But
I think the scary thing though is that it's like you said, it's very black or white right now.
Yeah.
And I was going through like some medical procedures that I don't necessarily want everyone to like know about. So which
yeah.
prevented vaccination. So
Oh, okay.
right now, like so it's kind of scary to like talk about because then people are like, no, you're just like lying or like you never know where people are at,
No, you would probably get some
so
of
like
that,
where
yeah.
like a friend of mine, he has anxiety putting a mask on, but he's like, I'm not going to be that person that applies for exemption. I'm like, dude, like I feel bad for people who like genuinely have issues,
Yeah.
but then get lumped into this whole like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist or
yeah, like what if you
whatever.
have really bad asthma or something? Like it's got to be brutal. I even get the anxiety aspect. For sure, it was an adjustment period. Like I've worked at the hospital for a while, but
Yeah.
where I work, they didn't even make us wear them before the pandemic. Like
Yeah.
it was an option. And
Yeah.
I've gotten used to it, but I remember at the beginning kind of having that where you can't get your full breath and your anxiety starts kicking in. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I spun out at the grocery store a couple times.
Oh,
I feel
same.
like.
Yeah.
Because the grocery store was terrifying in the
know.
first week or two. Everyone was like looking at each other like we were gonna kill each other or something. It was
Yeah.
just so high intensity,
Yeah. And then there's some things that like I'm just pretty rational minded and like transmission outdoors is like almost negligible, and so like masking outdoors, I think is just kind of silly.
Unless you're bunched together.
Unless
like
you're bunched together, for
face-to-face in a
sure. Like if I
concert
were
or
to go
something.
to fucking like Lollapalooza,
Yeah.
bet your ass I would have been like masked up. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't-
it's all circumstantial, which is where like mandates are kind of like a sketchy thing because it's like rural Ontario, like,
Yeah.
you know, a farmer on the field is like,
Yeah,
having a
exactly.
mask out.
It
It's
should
like, what?
things should be taken into account. Like not
Yeah.
one thing is going to apply to every
yeah.
situation.
I just
That's-
wish we were like given all the. Okay, hold on. Let me reword this so I don't sound crazy.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, I think we're smarter as the average citizens. We're smarter than they think we are, whoever they is.
Yeah, but I think what you need to remember is that when this was breaking out, this was a new disease.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they
it's
didn't
fucking
know what they
terrifying.
didn't know. Right. Remember all the beginning, it was all about like washing your groceries and
Yeah.
all that kind
Oh
of
my
stuff.
God, for sure.
Until enough time went by, they'd done enough studies to really rule out contact contamination as
Yeah.
a real source. So
Yeah, but then like grocery stores are still spraying down conveyor belts. So when
people are
that's
When do we
people are
get-
slow to change.
Yeah.
they were quick to change initially, but you're right. It's because it was a
But that was
new,
a reflex,
scary
a
ass-
survival instinct.
And now
For
it
sure.
still
Yeah.
still gives the consumers or a section of consumers some comfort level to see things being clean.
I know,
and
but
things
this
like
is where
that,
I'm
right?
kind of like frustrated. It's like we need to tell them that they're safe. It's okay.
Yeah. Like Kelly would say, if when kids gets dirt in their mouth, she's always like, "Oh, it'll build your immune system." You know, like. Whereas I'm somewhat of a germaphobe, so I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't know, scraping it out. But
No, and you know what? We're still gonna learn more about all this stuff. I'm like,
yeah. But well, I guess especially with masks, I was always just kind of like, okay, even with anxiety, and this might cause me a bit of discomfort, if it could potentially save somebody's life.
yeah.
Like, what's the big fucking deal? And there's definitely the people at the other side who are so instantly ready to be like, "Well, you're trying to tell me what I can't do?" And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how about you maybe think about doing it out of your own free will to be a good member of society? And
Yeah.
we're just taking all the precautions we need to right now. No one wants to be doing this. No one fucking woke up today being
Yeah,
like, I
for sure
can't wait
that-
to get
yeah.
a mask on, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it is tricky because I also understand that there's probably a lot of truth to, even if all the pandemic is just, you know, what it was, that it was probably overdue given the way cities are built and overpopulation and all that. Even if it was somewhat honest in that respect, like an act of God, there's no way the biggest companies that have reaped the most benefits from it aren't like paying attention and noticing that and probably hoping it will be maybe prolonged a little bit. I don't know. If someone said that to me, I would be open to hearing more because it sounds plausible, but that the people with the most money in the world, if they saw an opportunity to keep making more money, even at the disregard of the common folk, isn't that what they fucking do? Like,
Yeah, but
So-
I think before you assume somebody is of malicious intent,
Yeah.
maybe just think maybe they're incompetent. Like as my friend who's been in this situation in Sweden says, it's like the first time a lot of these politicians have done this. So she was telling me that so that I could calm down a bit about like restrictions and stuff.
yeah,
She's like,
that they're all
nobody's
just kind
done
of,
this before.
Yeah, trying to figure it out too.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, and we're gonna keep going. But it's nice to be able to finally sit down and talk with people again. So I'm
Oh, I
glad you
can
brought the test.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Before I forget, though, I do want to get you to kind of plug your programs that are all available on your website and kind of go
Yes.
over it a bit, because I thought it was really cool that you offer all these different formats of personal chefing that basically seem to depend on like how involved the person wants to be in the
Yeah,
process, which
yeah.
is super cool.
So for the last 5 years, I've worked as a personal chef. So a personal chef goes into your home, which obviously for the last couple of years haven't been doing as
Yeah.
much. But depending on people's comfort level, so I create a menu for people's dietary goals, for their health restrictions, or dietary restrictions and their health goals. I reverse that. And then, you know, I can either meal prep you a bunch of food and you portion it out yourself, or I portion out like macro-based foods. If you're like with a weight trainer and they're giving you like X grams of protein,
Really
X
specified.
grams of carbs, I can tailor to your tastes and likes. So a personal chef is really awesome. Like there's lots of us out there if you're interested in trying that out. Honestly, like each meal, it ends up being cheaper than like Uber Eats because it's so expensive right now. So if you want to work with a chef that really knows about nutrition, I'm your girl. There's lots of us out there. And then on top of that, I've always had a knack for performance arts. I think deep down, I'm a performer. I've dabbled in singing. Maybe one day I'll try comedy. We'll see. But
you're lively and likable.
Thank you. But aren't good
Well
comedians
spoken.
also like shit
Damaged.
talkers? Damage.
I would say damage is a better word because they come in all different, what's the word? Dispositions, but they all have something going on.
So that being said,
Myself included.
I've thought like one way to bridge the gap between like all this like boring sustainable stuff. Well, I mean, maybe it's boring to some people. I find it fascinating. And the layman, although I don't really like that term. I think that's a bad term.
Layperson.
Is to use comedy. So I developed a YouTube cooking show called Eva B's Jamboree, which you can find clips on evab.com
This
or
was
on my YouTube
Rogers
channel.
22 also?
So initially it started as a YouTube show, and then I pitched it to them to see if they wanted a re-edit of it. And then they're like, yeah, well, we need it like 16 to 22 minutes. So can you give us like a longer cut? So they got the long cut, but on YouTube, it's a shorter cut.
Cool though.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I was like not performing as much live musically, but I was still connected enough to the music scene in Ottawa. So what I did was each month of a full year, I cooked with a different band. So a different band would come in, we would cook a seasonal dish based on their ancestry. Then while it was in the oven, wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
TV magic.
they would perform a song, and then we would come back and try the food. So that was a
super
ton of fun. There were some skits involved, some of the episodes. So that's all on my YouTube channel. And then I partnered with Bell 5, TV1. They started another sort of Rogers 22, but it was more produced, and they featured different cities. So I was part of the Ottawa, one of the first shows that the Ottawa production team put together, and it's called Om Nom Ottawa. There's lots of songs that I wrote for the show and interviews with local farmers and producers. And yeah, so those were like more serious interviews cut to like a sketch, like a comedy sketch or a music video.
Oh, I really want to see this now.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I can send you some clips if you want.
Yeah, I checked out some stuff, but there's a lot to go over. You've got a lot of content on your website.
And I still have content that I need to like edit, and
You've
this
got a
whole
blog.
social media world, like there's always stuff that I could be doing, but I'm really hard at like narrowing my focus. Like if a marketer were to partner with me, they'd be like,
I think we were talking about this recently, but I'm the same way.
Really?
I feel like
Oh, thank
it's
God.
really hard for me to limit myself to one like creative endeavor. Like
Yeah.
I like doing comedy, but I like writing music. I like doing musical comedy. I like painting miniatures. I like, and I'm always trying to stick to one, but I just get impatient and want to go do the other thing. And I don't know.
yeah, I
That's
guess
what you were saying, right?
we need like a creative manager or something.
Yeah. I don't know that
Maybe.
I would like that though.
I
'cause
know,
sometimes
right?
It's definitely for some people. Some people
Yeah.
are hyper focused on their one thing and they know, it's like Jimi Hendrix or something. He's like, this is what I do.
Right. Okay.
But I kind of like doing this too,
Oh, I feel in good company because sometimes I'm like, I'm not being a good
It
enough
makes you feel
entrepreneur.
directionless.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that where I'm like, what am I doing? Why don't I just figure out what my niche is or whatever?
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe
Well,
my
I think
niche
you
is
have
not having a niche.
Hell yeah. Well, I think you have a good thing going on here.
Thank you.
Gotta
Yes,
say.
the show is definitely something that feels the most natural out
Really?
of everything. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Because I like doing comedy, but I still feel so anxious before every
Oh my God.
performance, and music's probably kind of. This is the time where I just feel like I'm in my realm or my lair, as you put it.
I should start a podcast. I really should. And so lately.
Yeah, nobody's doing it.
Well,
I'm just joking. I feel that we were talking about that too.
it's good to just put that in your head so you don't stop yourself from doing it.
You should do it. I 100% was joking. You should do it
No,
just
I know.
because even if no one listens, it's so therapeutic and such a fun experience.
Yeah. Well, you've given me a lot of inspiration because of reaching out to childhood heroes and also making me feel comfortable about interviewing local people too.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
It's fun to meet
it's
people.
just
That's
a
my motto.
conversation.
Yeah, and I
Lots
think
of
people would
interesting
watch
people in
yours
Ottawa.
because you're, you've got the experience hosting all these shows. That you're natural, so I think, you should do it.
Thanks. Well, lately I've been on Twitch bi-weekly
This is
/ weekly.
I had that here.
And so that's more of like a free form. So like people who watch or are expecting a full-on cooking show, if they log on live, that's not what you're getting. You're getting me shooting the shit with like people from literally all around the world. One thing I didn't expect from the Pandy is to have connected with people from Texas, from Trinidad, from France. Like, I would have never branched out to those people on Instagram or Facebook or like in my own world.
I've heard this about Twitch, that it's very, very connective. Yeah.
It's so surprising to me. So yeah, it's been super fun. I end up playing some of my skits from my old shows as like breaks if I have to go pee or if like I'm cleaning the dishes, because it's funny, you always have a view count of who's watching live. It definitely goes down as soon as I'm like washing a dish. They're like, fuck this. But that's also the beauty of Twitch, is like you can jump in and out. A lot of people are like, oh, I missed it. I'm like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to. Also, you don't have to have an app. People think
you can't watch it at a later time on Twitch.
You can. You can watch. It's called a video on demand, but I don't think it's the same. Really, the essence of Twitch is that you're watching live and interacting with the host. Like, there's a lot of awesome people who are on Twitch, and they're like, you can spin the wheel, and the wheel spins, and they have to like take a shot or something. It's like super. It's a weird world. It's very interactive, but I've really thrived from it because A, it forced me to do something during the core, and then B, I've connected with so many people, and like they would watch me from like their country cooking a dish that's national to them and teaching me how to cook that dish.
That's
like, I had a Japanese cooking instructor in California walk me through how to make okonomiyaki, which is this Japanese pancake. And he was like, I had so many questions. I went to the Japanese store and like picked up some stuff. I'm like, is this the right thing? Like,
that's
it's
amazing.
Crazy. Yeah, it's been an amazing learning experience.
Definitely.
Keeps me on my toes. Like, some people are like, oh, you've been in the business for so long. You must be like tired of whatever. And I'm like, no.
There's always more you can learn.
That's what I love about food. There's always something new to learn. And
the passion comes through loud and clear. And I'm so glad that you're someone who knows what you want to do, because, you know.
Oh, no,
not
but I thought we discussed that I don't really know what to do because I'm doing so many things.
At least in a broad sense, you know your love of food, and you're always going to try and find new, cool, interesting things to do.
Oh, yeah. The reason also why I brought up Twitch was because I've been really delving into nostalgic much music clips on Twitch, because like one part of having an international audience there is to show them my childhood. So I've had some streams where I'm like, you know what? Let's watch like a full episode of Electric Circus. And they're like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, no, just wait. And people are like, the costumes, the music, what?
I don't know that they've aged well.
No, it's aged.
It's like a
really
rave,
well.
basically. Yeah.
We watched one because remember they did those lives at Canada's Wonderland or like downtown Ottawa.
Yeah, special events.
So one like B44 were there.
Oh my god! Someone just brought that up on Facebook the other day. Not that event, but those guys B44.
I was like, wait, did I hear that right? And they come out and they're like lip syncing full on.
I'm amazed they're still alive. Yeah.
No. This was like a long time ago.
Oh yeah, but
the person brought up that they're still around on Facebook?
Actually, no, I don't know that. I thought what you were saying was more relevant to now, or more like recent, rather.
No. Ancient.
They're probably still alive because they were in like a boy band in the 90s, so I would hope at least a couple of them survive. Do you know B44? Okay, they're these guys who were like super spray tanned. They had
you get down on me,
giant
I'll get
pointy.
Down on you.
That's what I was gonna say. Very inappropriate lyrics, considering it was like targeted to tweens, I would say.
Yeah,
like
the bridge goes, and I'm gonna make you come tonight over to my house.
Oh yeah. Yeah, did you hear the first part though? If you get down on me, I'll get down on you.
So yeah, it's amazing that my parents let me watch much music as much as I did.
That was a very bad example though.
No, but there's a lot of shit that I got into that I'm like surprised they were like, whatever. That's actually shout out to my parents. So like I was kind of ragging on like that immigrant mentality earlier, but you know what? They let me stay up and watch Jerry Springer, SNL. Like I have my brother is 7 years older than me, so I think they're like whatever goes for him, whatever she'll
yeah, the first always gets the most restrictions, and then the parents break, and the second kid they're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, so you know.
That's funny though. Yeah, I don't know that we watched Jerry Springer, but I remember my cousins weren't even allowed.
I loved it so much.
My cousins weren't even allowed to watch The Simpsons, and I always thought that
I know my friend, never watched The Simpsons. I was like, excuse
to bring
me?
up, your shirt again.
Bart Simpson.
But yeah, we grew up on The Simpsons, and Because I think The Simpsons was very good, and I recognize this even more watching it as an adult, at hiding the adult jokes for the adults. And they were so adult that the kids would have no idea what the hell they were
Oh
talking
my God,
about.
I'll watch it now and be like, whew, I missed that.
So, yes, 100%. Oh,
and
my God.
It got into some deep, dark topics
Yeah.
that I only realize now. I'm like, whoa, that's poignant.
There's a lot of emotionally driven episodes for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have that. Oh, actually, I did want to ask you about one food eating trend because I had never heard of it. And Kelly
Okay.
said all the nurses she works with were talking about
All right, bring it on.
FODMAP.
FODMAPs. Okay,
And
so
the acronym was insane.
yeah, I can't. I'm really good at acronyms usually, but not this one. I don't even know where to start. But
It's all
okay.
saccharides.
Fermentable oligosaccharides,
saccharides, yes.
disaccharides, monosaccharides.
Okay.
And the AP I forget, but that's mom's thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so some people have like too much probiotic action going on and they'll eat any sugar. So sometimes your microbes in your guts can get out of balance. And so a low FODMAP diet like includes no onions, I think no garlic too. Garlic is okay. No, it's not. It's not okay. Yeah, so there's still sugars in them. And then if you eat anything with pretty much any carbohydrate, it can start fueling those bad bacteria. It can cause a lot of havoc, like IBS symptoms and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's interesting that I guess it's a nursing trend.
Oh, I don't know. That's just where she had heard about it. And
Yeah,
I had
that's funny.
never heard of it. So,
Yeah. That's a pretty niche diet, but it's kind of around the same thing. It's like if you lower the amount of processed foods, which are usually high in carbohydrates, then you should be pretty okay. But I don't necessarily.
I was going to say, I looked it
have
up
an
last
issue
night and
with
some of the things they were
onions.
telling you not to eat were not processed things. It was like
Yeah.
certain berries
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
and-
Like no carbohydrates. Yeah. Some
So-
people really suffer with any carb.
Yeah, so like at our house, I mean, because there's so many things to keep track of, you can't keep track of them. So, we always go to our Google Home and we just go, is such and such on the FODMAP diet? And it's very good. It says yes or no all the time. And in one of the universities that seems to be very well steeped in this is Monash University, which I think is in Australia. Because they often come up as the source. But yeah, you just toss food out. So like our beets on the FODMAP diet is lentils on the FODMAP diet, and it'll tell you. And your mom, she knows from experience to pay attention to this for her because this makes a big difference in her life. When she discovered FODMAP, things got a lot better.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And then how recently? Oh, sorry.
Within the last year and a half or so, I'd
Okay,
say.
it's recent.
Yeah.
What were you going to ask? Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, if anyone is interested in an elimination diet, unfortunately, you have to stick to it pretty strict for at least 3 weeks. I would say 28 days, because you need your body to get used to not having that food in you, and then just try one thing at a time and give yourself a couple days. So if you were to do an elimination diet like I did, that removed a few different food groups, introduce a dairy first and then wait a couple days, because some symptoms manifest over 24 48 hours. You don't actually get the joint pain right away.
Yeah, it takes some time to set in.
Yeah like food can affect so many things that we don't think of. Like for me, big one was anxiety. And
Which foods caused that for you?
I think it was just like overall my gut was, so you can get what's called leaky gut. And so what happens is that particles are indigested and then go into your bloodstream, and then they can affect like the inflammation in your brain.
Oh,
So
God.
I think it was just general overall, my body was not, after, partying a lot in my 20s, perhaps could have really destroyed my body. And maybe my whole life I've been gluten intolerant and I didn't realize it. So
I think people were maybe afraid to admit they were gluten intolerant for a while because it became such a thing you
that's
were
the
hearing
thing
about.
we were talking about earlier, though.
Yeah,
It's
people would
just
make
like,
fun of you. Oh, yeah, gluten, sure.
Oh, excuse me, you have a gluten intolerance. You're probably just...
Yeah, well, I actually had a joke that I never did because there's a store, and this was in the hype of all the, where everyone thought they had a gluten allergy all of a sudden. There was a store that opened up in the little mini mall over here called The Joy of Gluten. And I wanted to ask them, do all your shipments arrive by bandwagon? So, I don't know.
What I
how good that
also
is.
hate is like when menus say gluten free. No, what is it? Gluten friendly. some places will like write on the menu gluten friendly, and I'm like, wait, is this for like a bread aficionado?
Yeah, does that mean you like bread? Yeah, we really dig bread here. We're bread.
I love gluten. That's what makes bread stretchy. You know,
Yeah.
those things. It's if you can tolerate gluten, it's a great thing.
That's like
Oh my God, preach.
the best
So good.
scene in This Is the End. Like right at the beginning of the movie with Seth Rogen and Jay Baruchel, they're finally meeting up at the airport or whatever. And he's talking about how he doesn't eat gluten anymore. And I don't remember the exact conversation, but then they just cut all of a sudden to them eating like Wendy's and they're just like, oh, gluten.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I
Oh.
hope I can get back on that kind of like making fun of myself track, because I think I don't know how you've been in re-entering society, but I definitely feel like nervous
The
about it just
show
because I've
helped.
been
I was
so
doing, sorry, I feel
in
like I
my
keep cutting
mind.
you off. I'm so sorry.
You're not.
That's a sign of a good conversation, I guess, when we're so
I think
excited
so.
to
We're,
both
we're
talk.
vibing.
Doing the show helped during the pandemic because I was still having Zoom conversations with complete strangers. So it made the social aspect a little, I mean, didn't feel normal, but it was still something, you know, it challenged me to be comfortable with talking to people sort of like you would if you went to the grocery store and ended up bumping into some random person and, you know, starting a conversation.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. I'm glad
Getting-
to actually be doing real people
Yeah,
stuff though.
me too.
See how long it lasts, fourth wave and all the kids at school with
It's
the
not-
Delta. And
Can we get an update?
I got an update. My kid's school just got a coronavirus positive.
Oh, okay.
He's
Is that-
vaccinated, my kid.
Yeah.
He's the oldest one.
Nice.
But, you know, it's still freaky to hear that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But can we get an update since your dad is on COVID-19 watch? This
The
just,
latest in COVID
this
news.
just in.
Well, my sense of Delta is that while it's spreading, I don't think we're going to get in trouble in Ontario.
Yeah.
Not like Alberta or anything like
Because
that.
we're so vaxxed.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Nice.
vaccination is definitely the way to handle this. And what I'm really curious about is what's upcoming. Like, will they combine the flu shot and the COVID shot into one? I know they're working on that. And,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
need to
yes,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah, and are they and really, how long is it going to take for them to determine how frequently the general populace is going to require boostering, right? I mean, we know the elderly in that could probably benefit now just because of the low performance of the immune system. But what's really interesting is just as society at large, you know, we're going to have the annual flu shot, probably combined with COVID in there as well as part of it. And then we'll have parts of society that don't take the flu shot today, and they won't
Yeah.
take that one either. And so I think there will be a low-level endemic COVID in society going forward. You know,
Endemic. That is a good
But it'll
way
be
of putting it.
normalized in the way that we handle it for the
yeah,
a large
yeah,
part of
yeah.
society.
And since the bulk of society will be vaccinated and will continue to get refreshers and all that, it'll become this low-level new thing where we'll always have a couple of people with COVID in hospital. Some of them will go to ICU.
yeah.
You know, it'll just become part of life, I think. That's
What-
just me. I could be totally wrong. Hey,
What
I'm-
are you most excited about, both of you, for normal times?
Oh my God, going out dancing for sure.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, okay.
more
Okay,
than
you just
anything.
you just came across as like a I love just chilling with my kids kind of guy. I didn't know
Oh.
you like went out dancing. Ooh,
Well,
Oliver.
yeah, mom and dad need to go party. You know what I'm saying? Babysitters and send the kids off to
Where
the
do you go
grandparents.
out dancing?
Honestly, I feel like every time I've gone dancing, it's always been at a different place. Like we don't have like a place. We kind of just go and have drinks downtown, and then find a place that has music playing and start
That's
dancing.
fun.
Yeah. I've talked about this on the podcast, but I used to hate dancing when I was younger.
Yeah?
And, when me and Kelly got together, just happened once at a wedding drunk, and then I realized how fun it was, how much I didn't suck the way I thought I would. And I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I play music. I have rhythm. Like, why would I be a terrible dancer? And then the more I embraced it, the better I got. I felt. I don't know. I'd have to see footage, I suppose, to really know. But I've always gotten, good feedback and stuff. So, and it's
Yeah.
just fun. It's just a freeing experience. Maybe even more so because it was something that I held for so long as like, not like, oh no, I was the guy standing at the back of the dance, or I wouldn't go to the dance because I was so worried I was going to suck at dancing and embarrass
Yeah.
myself. So yeah.
Well, it's like if you don't think about it too much like this, but it's kind of a good form of exercise too. So
my
when I'm talking
God,
about
yes.
like looking at like the different aspects of your life, where you could like incorporate more movement or like
Yeah.
better, more conscious choices for food, like do stuff that you like.
Yeah,
For instance, I haven't
definitely.
done yoga in like years and I'm starting to do it every day again. I'm like, oh, I like weight training, which is something that I dabbled in the last couple of years, but like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like that. And
I
like
switched-
dancing is fun too.
It
I want
totally
to take
is.
dance classes.
Well, we
with my
we
husband.
just had nights where we would go dancing, and the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
day your legs are just like annihilated, and you did like 2,000 calories burned off you.
Yeah.
So it definitely feels good. But I agree with what you say about like find the way to exercise that works for you. That you're not going to look at it as like a horrible chore, and hopefully it's
Totally.
something that you're looking forward
Even going
to.
for a walk.
Yeah, anything is better than
Anything.
nothing.
Get outside, yo.
But I switched
outside.
though. You're talking about weight training. Not that I ever did that heavy, but because of the pandemic, obviously when the gyms closed. Pre-pandemic, I had been going to a gym for about a year
Oh,
or
cool.
two, and at least a few times a week, go for a couple hours and just do a bunch of different stuff. But then afterwards, I had to adapt and start doing like just home calisthenics and like jail workouts and
Yeah,
stuff.
you can do a lot with just your body.
You can do a lot way faster in my experience. Maybe I was just half-assing it at the gym, but I find like I do like 20-minute workouts now that have me sweating just as hard as my old 2-hour workouts where I kind of didn't really know what I was doing, and I would just go from machine to machine being like, oh yeah, I know how to use this. And, I was never an expert, but man, this has been a great conversation. I want to ask you before I forget, this is the last question, but if you've seen season 2 question, you probably know, if you could have dinner with anybody that you've never met that's living or dead, who would it be and why?
I would say my great grandma in Serbia, because she's the one that grew up on the farm, and it was like World War II vibes.
Okay.
Like, I want to know. I've always kind of had a fascination for the late 1800s. Like, I was really into Jane Austen as a kid
Is that like
too.
Victorian era or no?
No.
Or was that earlier?
No, Victorian was earlier. We're like
You
always
would know
looking at
Dad.
the
Yeah.
dad.
Oh, my dad always comes through with this. Do you
yeah,
know
like
Dad?
late 1800s.
He doesn't know. Oh.
Obviously, that's before World War II. I know that, but World War I even. But yeah, it would just be really fascinating to see like where I came from. I've been to Serbia a few times ever since we immigrated here, but I would love to really know where I came from, in that sense.
Yeah,
would be really cool.
Meeting a relative that you've like heard or read about but never actually met is a
Yeah.
cool thought. I've thought that about some of my, I guess, great grandparents. My mom will tell me like, "Oh, my grandpa was such a cool guy." and,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Like I
that's
have this beautiful picture of her in this like gorgeous dress, and like everyone back then like just sewed their own clothes, and I would just love to see like what a farm back then would be like. And
Would you be able to communicate though, or would
Yeah.
they be speaking a different language? Or do
no,
you
it
know?
would be Serbian.
And you know Serbian. Cool.
Yeah,
What? Oh, now I want to get you to say something in Serbian.
yeah, sure.
How would you say "just chill" with Oliver George? Chill is probably
Chill, yeah. Like what would we say?
Okay, maybe that's not a good one.
Okay, hold on. Samo polako, Oliver George.
Cool.
That means like easygoing, like just be easy.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna make that a soundbite or something. Then I'll get the Serbian audience. Come on, guys,
Yeah, come on, Balkan people.
rise
This
up.
is how we say peace. It's the 3 fingers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you know the origin of that?
Nope.
And we'll leave it on that.
Which is why I want to hang out with my great
Let's
grandma.
do a Serbian high 3. We always.
Hey, brate moje.
Yeah, it was a blast
Hey,
hanging out
brother.
with you, and
Yeah, it was hanging-
come
nice
back
hanging with
anytime.
you.
I hope to see you again.
Sweet. I
Okay.
would love to.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Fuck you, Mike's Hard Lemonade.